Welcome to Human Stories, where every journey inspires a new beginning. From humble beginnings to extraordinary triumphs, each story reminds us that ordinary people can achieve the extraordinary. Let's begin today's journey. Born in 1955, gone too soon in 2011, Jobs' life spanned just 56 years. Yet within that time, he shaped 6 industries: personal computers, animated films, music, phones, tablets, and digital publishing. This is not just the story of Steve Jobs. This is the story of how one man made us think, loved, and hated, praised as a genius, yet criticized as ruthless. But what cannot be denied is the mark he left on human history. Whether you own an Apple product or not, your life has been touched by his vision. His story is not just about technology. It is about imagination, courage, and daring to change the world. Story is not a straight path of success. It is a tale of brilliance and failure, of triumphs and humiliations. From the quiet suburbs of California to the stage of global product launches, his journey was one of obsession, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of holding a piece of glass in your hand and instantly connecting with anyone, anywhere. Imagine carrying thousands of songs in your pocket or editing a movie from your bedroom. These were once impossible dreams until Steve Jobs made them real. His vision turned science fiction into everyday reality. A person comes along who reshapes the way we see the world. In the late 20th century, that person was Steve Jobs. He wasn't just a businessman or a technologist. He was a storyteller, a dreamer, and a disruptor. His creations didn't just live on desks or in pockets. They lived in people's lives, transforming the way we think, work, and connect. On October 5th, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. Crowds around the world gathered outside Apple stores, leaving flowers, candles, and notes. The man who began in a garage had transformed entire industries and inspired millions. His life was short, but his impact was everlasting. 2007 to 2011. Despite being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2003, Jobs worked tirelessly. The iPhone evolved, the App Store was born, and the iPad launched in 2010, defining a new category of personal computing. His health declined, but his determination never wavered. Jobs stepped down as Apple's CEO in August 2011. Arrived in 1998, bold and colorful, proving Apple was alive again. Next came the iPod and iTunes, changing how the world consumed music. By 2007, Jobs took the stage to reveal the iPhone. A phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator, all in one. The iPhone wasn't just a product. It was the beginning of a new era. Return, 1997 to 2007. In 1997, Apple was near bankruptcy. In desperation, they brought Steve Jobs back. His return marked one of the greatest comebacks in business history. With his trademark black turtleneck and sharp vision, Jobs slashed failing projects and refocused the company on simplicity and innovation. Jobs made what seemed like a side bet. He purchased a struggling animation studio from George Lucas in 1986. That studio became Pixar. Against all odds, Pixar released Toy Story in 1995, the first fully computer-animated film. It was a global sensation, and Jobs became a billionaire once again. Next and Pixar, 1985 to 1996. Exiled from Apple, Jobs refused to give up. He founded Next, a computer company focused on education and business. Though the machines were admired for their design, they were too expensive to succeed commercially. But Next software would later play a crucial role in Apple's 1984. Jobs unveiled the Macintosh with a bold commercial during the Super Bowl. It promised a computer for the rest of us, simple, creative, and revolutionary. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Jobs' relentless perfectionism clashed with colleagues and board members. Just 1 year later, in 1985, Jobs was forced out of Apple, the very company of Apple. 1976 to 1985. In 1976, Jobs and Wozniak built their first computer in Jobs' garage. They called it the Apple I. Unlike other clunky machines, it was friendly and accessible. Soon came the Apple II, which became one of the first highly successful mass-produced personal computers. Apple was born, and Jobs, just 21 years old, was suddenly finishing school. Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Oregon, but within 6 months, he dropped out. Though he continued to audit classes, fascinated by calligraphy and design. Those lessons in typography would later inspire the elegant fonts on the Macintosh computer. Jobs was restless, spiritual, and searching, even traveling to India in 1974 in pursuit of enlightenment. Jobs met a shy and brilliant boy named Steve Wozniak. The two bonded over electronics and mischief, building small gadgets for fun. One of their first ventures was the Blue Box, a device that allowed people to make free long-distance calls. Jobs would later say that without the Blue Box, there would be no Apple. 1955 to 1975. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco. His biological parents gave him up for adoption, and he was welcomed into the home of Paul and Kara Jobs. Paul, a machinist, taught Steve how to take apart and rebuild electronics, sparking a lifelong curiosity. Growing up in Mountain View, California, young Jobs found himself at the heart of what would later be known as Silicon Valley. Jobs' relentless pursuit of perfection often delayed products, pushed teams to exhaustion, and created conflicts. While his uncompromising vision built iconic devices, it also left scars on those who worked closest to him. His genius came with a cost, both for Apple and for the people around. His personal life wasn't without controversy. For years, he denied being the father of his first daughter, Lisa, even as DNA tests confirmed it. Though he later built a relationship with her, critics said it revealed a colder human side behind the polished public. Jobs also faced criticism for its secrecy and supply chain practices. Factories in China, producing iPhones and iPods, drew attention for harsh working conditions. Jobs defended Apple's practices, but admitted improvements were needed. His obsession with secrecy also created a culture of silence and pressure with colleagues. Coined the phrase reality distortion field to describe his ability to bend perception. He could convince teams to meet impossible deadlines, often through sheer force of will. Critics saw manipulation, but supporters said it pushed people beyond their limits and created products the world had never seen before. And controversies. The harsh leader, Steve Jobs was admired for vision, but feared for his management style. Colleagues described him as intense, demanding, and often brutally critical. He could humiliate employees in meetings, yet also inspire them to achieve the impossible. To some, he was a genius. To others, a tyrant. The iPhone launch, 2007. On January 9, 2007, Jobs took the stage in San Francisco and introduced the iPhone. A phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator, all in one. It wasn't just a new device, it was the dawn of the smartphone era. This moment cemented Jobs as one of the most influential figures of modern times. Return, 1997. In 1997, Apple was on the brink of collapse. The company bought Jobs' firm Next, bringing him back as CEO. Jobs streamlined Apple's product line and reignited its culture of innovation. His comeback would become one of the greatest turnarounds in business history. Breakthrough. 1995. During his exile from Apple, Jobs invested in a small animation studio, Pixar. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, the world's first computer-animated film. It was a groundbreaking success. Jobs, once ousted from Silicon Valley, had now conquered Hollywood. Jobs' fiery personality clashed with Apple's board. He was forced to leave the company he co-founded. For many, this would have been the end of a career. For Jobs, it was a painful but defining moment, one that would push him toward new ventures and greater resilience. Turning point moments. The Garage Startup, 1976. In 1976, a 21-year-old Steve Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak built the Apple I computer in Jobs' parents' garage. They sold it to hobbyists, but it marked the birth of Apple. What began with a few circuit boards would soon grow into one of the most valuable companies on Earth. 2011. Even as his health declined, Jobs continued to unveil new innovations. His resignation as Apple's CEO in August 2011 marked the end of an era. Just weeks later, he passed away. His final turning point was not a product, but the legacy he left behind, a reminder that ideas can outlive their creator. Lesson 5. Time is precious. After his cancer diagnosis, Jobs told Stanford graduates, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." He lived urgently, focusing only on what mattered. His final lesson: life is short. Create boldly, live authentically, and never settle. Think different. Apple's famous slogan wasn't just marketing, it was Jobs' philosophy. He challenged norms, questioned rules, and saw possibilities others ignored. While competitors focused on specs, Jobs focused on experience. Thinking differently allowed him to lead, not follow. Simplicity is power. Jobs believed technology should be simple, elegant, and human-friendly. When others added complexity, he stripped it away. The iPod had just one wheel. The iPhone had a single button. His lesson? Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and it can change the world. Failure is fuel. In 1985, Jobs was humiliated, forced out of Apple. But instead of giving up, he built Next and grew Pixar into a powerhouse. Those failures gave him the wisdom and strength for his greatest comeback. Jobs proved that failure isn't the end. It's the foundation for reinvention. 5 lessons. Lesson 1. Follow passion, not money. Jobs often said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." In the early days, he and Wozniak didn't build Apple to get rich. They built it because they loved electronics. Money followed later. His life shows that passion creates purpose, and purpose creates success. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. For Jobs, design was more than beauty. It was usability. He pushed Apple to create devices that anyone could pick up and use instantly. This belief shaped the iMac, the iPod, and the iPhone. Design wasn't decoration. It was function married to simplicity, to follow your heart and intuition. Jobs often relied on instinct rather than data. From choosing product designs to quitting college, he trusted his gut. This quote captures the way he lived: courage over comfort, instinct over convention. Limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. In that same Stanford speech, Jobs reminded graduates that life is fragile. Facing his own battle with cancer, he spoke with urgency. This quote is not advice, it's a wake-up call. to live authentically and follow one's own path. Who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. This line came from Apple's 1997 Think Different campaign, a vision Jobs personally shaped. It wasn't just marketing. It was Jobs' belief that bold ideas come from outsiders, rebels, and dreamers. He saw himself in those words. Inspiring quotes. Stay hungry, stay foolish. In 2005, Jobs gave a famous speech at Stanford University. He ended with these words from a counterculture magazine he read as a young man. Stay hungry, stay foolish. It became his mantra. Never settle, never stop exploring, and never stop learning. A legacy of thinking different. Jobs left us in 2011, but his influence has only grown. His life reminds us that great ideas come from challenging the status quo, trusting creativity, and daring to dream big. His true legacy is not just in devices, but in the courage to think different. Design. Jobs made design matter. Before him, most saw technology as cold and utilitarian. He insisted that products should be beautiful, intuitive, and joyful to use. That philosophy shaped the culture of modern design, influencing companies from smartphones to cars to entrepreneurs. From Silicon Valley to small startups worldwide, Jobs inspired generations of entrepreneurs. His story proved that vision and determination could outshine money or resources. Today, countless innovators cite Steve Jobs as their role model, the spark behind their own bold ideas. Industries changed forever. Jobs didn't just shape computers. He disrupted 6 industries: personal computing with Apple II, animated films with Pixar, music with the iPod and iTunes, phones with the iPhone, tablets with the iPad, and digital publishing with the App Store. Few individuals have changed so much in one lifetime. And impact. The Apple Revolution. Jobs transformed Apple from a garage startup into the world's most valuable company. His vision gave us the Macintosh, iPod, iPhone, and iPad, products that defined entire categories. Apple became more than a brand. It became a symbol of creativity and simplicity. The final note. As we close his story, remember the words he left behind. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Perhaps the greatest tribute to Steve Jobs is to live those words, to keep searching, keep dreaming, and never stop thinking different. Lasting legacy. Today, millions carry his vision in their pockets, on their desks, and in their daily lives. But Jobs' true gift was not the devices. It was the inspiration to dream, to innovate, and to believe that one person can make a difference. Side. Jobs was not perfect. He was demanding, flawed, sometimes harsh. But he was also fearless in chasing ideas others thought impossible. His story reminds us that greatness is never about perfection. It is about daring to create and refusing to thinking different. Jobs left us in 2011, but his influence has only grown. His life reminds us that great ideas come from challenging the status quo, trusting creativity, and daring to dream big. His true legacy is not just in devices, but in the courage to think different. This was another chapter in Human Stories. May it inspire your own path forward. Don't forget to subscribe and join us as we share more journeys of courage, vision, and resilience. Until next time, keep believing in your story.